Good afternoon, everybody. Today we're going to be presenting the Continuing Education Provider Approval Process for CAI Chapters. My name is Laura Lozano, and I am the Credentialing Associate here at CAMICB.
And my name is Karina May, and I am one of the webinar administrators here at CAMICB. All right, Laura, if you want to go ahead and get started.
Absolutely. So, what exactly is the CMCA? The CMCA is a certification requiring candidates to pass a rigorous exam. It's administered by CAMICB, or the Community Association Managers International Certification Board. It's accredited, validated, and must comply with the standards of a certifying body, which in this case are the NCCA and ANSI. We're currently dual accredited, so we have both national and international accreditation. The CMCA is not a designation obtained by completing a select set of coursework. It's not a CI designation. And lastly, and most importantly, we're not allowed to single source our continuing education. So because we have achieved accreditation both by the National Commission for Certifying Agencies as well as ISO 1702 for international accreditation through the American National Standards Institute to maintain our accreditation, we must continue to demonstrate the quality and relevance of the competency enhancement method by thoroughly reviewing all coursework from every provider. So this means to remain in compliance, we also cannot single source continuing education. We must be able to provide continuing education from a variety of resources. So this is why we have to have continuing education approved from the CAI chapters. Now, chapter programs must be CAMICB approved for CMCAs to receive recertification credit. This means applications for continuing education will be received and reviewed each week. Chapters will typically receive a notice of approval for each course or program between 30 days. Our turnaround has been quicker because of weekly reviews, but the standard approval time frame is 30 days. So if your course should be submitted for approval at least 30 days in advance of your intended start date, courses are approved for 2 years and then uploaded to our gallery of continuing education. So moving on, I'm sure you are all aware at this point that CAMICB provides a continuing education website through OpenWater. So first, I'm going to go ahead and review how to navigate to this page. First off, you'll want to go to the CAMICB website. And when you hover your cursor over that recertification menu option, you'll see there is an option called CAI Chapter Resources. And then when you click on that page, you'll see that there is a big blue box that says Start Continuing Education Provider Application. And this is a link that is going to take you directly to the CAMICB Continuing Education webpage. And for easy access, we recommend that once you navigate to this webpage, to just go ahead and bookmark it for easy access so you don't have to go continually navigate back to this page. We also suggest that you create one account for all submissions. If you have other people on your team who will submit application, it's easiest to use the same profile. So let's go ahead and start the application process. Once you go to that continuing education application, to submit a new application, you'll want to select on the provider application option under that continuing education course providers overview menu selection. And this will take you to, as you can see, the lower screenshot where you can either view previous submissions or begin a new submission. Now, for our purposes, we're going to review the new submission process. If you have not already created an account on this web page, the application will prompt you to create an account before you proceed. And since I'm sure all of you have used OpenWater for the CAI Chapter Awards, you probably already have an account set up. If you have any questions about your login, please feel free to reach out to us at continuingeducation@camicb.org. So now let's go ahead and start that application process overview. You'll see here that the online application is broken down into 3 pages of information you'll need to submit for each course. As you can see, the first page is the provider information page, which is the page that we're on right now. The second page is the course information page. And then lastly is the co-presenters page. The first page here will require your basic information, including the course content and the instructor. You'll include here the course content, course organization name, and location and email address. The content name and email address will be listed publicly on the Continuing Education Gallery, so you want to make sure you're providing the right information for CMCAs to contact on this page. So moving on to the next slide, this is where the majority of your information will be listed. So you'll have several sections to provide all of the information regarding your course for CAMICB to review for approval, which we will cover in the following slide. Now, don't be overwhelmed. I'm going to go ahead and go through all of these together. And I did want to know that I put an asterisk by the specific sections that are going to be listed publicly on the Continuing Education Gallery. So this is where you're going to want to be mindful that this is going to be public-facing information. So first, we're going to look at the course title. So what is the title of your course or program? Then the description of the program. This is where we want to include pertinent information for CMCAs to know about this course, such as what is this course going to cover, who is presenting, what sorts of skill or knowledge will they expect to obtain. And then under that is learner outcomes. This is not public-facing information. This is just for CAMICB to review to determine what CMCAs will gain as a result of this class or program. So will CMCAs gain skills on, say, how to deal with difficult people? Will they learn the newest regulations regarding an important issue and so forth? So the next item here is course delivery. Is the course going to be in person, live, or on demand? If the course is live, this means that it's a one-time virtual event. Whereas if it's on demand, that means it's going to be an ongoing virtual program. And then next we have course material. So this is where you're going to upload all of the information you use to attach the previous PDF applications. This will include information like your detailed outline, copy of handouts, copy of presentation materials, copies of advertising, and a speaker biography and contact information. If you don't remember what you need to upload, the application will list out everything you need to include. If you don't have all of this information, just try to upload as much as you possibly can so that we have everything that is available to review the course to determine if it can be approved. Now, please note that you will not need to combine documents because the system only allows for one upload. Next, we have the tracking attendance. There are three options for this. We have yes, no, or other. And honestly, you need to track attendance. So if you select anything other than yes or other, it will not be approved. CAMICB Continuing Education Policy requires that all approved courses have attendance being tracked. So as long as you're tracking attendance in some form or another, then this is acceptable for our purposes. But if you're not tracking attendance, then we will not be able to approve the program. Next, we have here the on-demand URL. Again, this is going to be a public-facing point. You'll want to be cautious using these sections. If you have a live webinar that is going to be converted to an on-demand webinar, consider using a link to your organization course homepage for CMCAs to navigate so they aren't directed to a dead registration link after your live course ends. Next, we have program dates. This can be TBD, but honestly, it is more appealing to CMCAs if you can include a finite date or an ongoing option. Next, we have continuing education hours. So CAMICB can approve 1 hour of education to 1 hour of credit. And please note that courses below 1 hour will not be approved. All right, then, of course, we have course fee. You are allowed to charge a fee for your program, but you want to be specific. And then we'll go on to the questions for the application. So first we have, has this course been previously approved by CAMICB? If your course has been previously approved, this will actually make the application process very simple for you. You'll just need to upload your previous approval notice to your course materials section instead of uploading all of your course materials. And that will essentially satisfy the course material option for you. Now, please know that if your course has had some significant changes to the content or the overall delivery, you will need to ensure that you upload that new information to your course materials section. The next question is, has this course been approved by a state regulatory agency for community manager licensing? If so, then you actually won't have to submit any course material at all. If you check that these options, you just have to upload your state regulatory agency approval document to this section, and that will satisfy as your course material. And then lastly, there is the provider attestation section. So this is where you're going to essentially virtually sign the application that you agree to abide by all CAMICB continuing education requirements and policies if you are approved, including providing CMCAs with certificates of attendance and submitting roster of attendees to CAMICB.
All right, now that we've covered all the information on that second page, let's go on to the third page. And this is where you include your co-presenter information. And then once you've included that information, then you will hit Save and Finalize. Notice of approvals are emailed within 30 days after a submission deadline date. So now I'm going to go ahead and cover a very commonly asked question, which is, do our conference and expo qualify? The first answer that I typically give to this question is, whose name is going to appear on the certificate of attendance as the continuing education provider? If it's the CAI chapter, then the chapter must apply to CAMICB. If the speaker is the one who's going to administer these certificates of attendance, then that's going to be the speaker who needs to apply. Another question we get is, how many credits can we award for conference attendance? So if you're offering concurrent sessions, then credits are going to be awarded based on session attendance. If you are hosting consecutive sessions, then credits are going to be awarded for a conference attendance. So please note that continuing education credits can only be awarded for educational content. So this means that any sort of meet and greets or trade show, floor time, or networking opportunities, those would not qualify or be approved as continuing education. Only the educational portions of the event are going to qualify. So next I'll go ahead and review the top 5 reasons applications are denied, listed mainly in order of importance. So first off, the target audience is not community association managers. So there is a distinct difference between a community association manager and a property manager. If we see the term property manager, this is a big red flag for us that the course provider is not aware of the difference between these two professions. So this basically lets us know that the education is not going to be tailored specifically to community association managers. So if we see the term property manager used where community association manager should be, then that is pretty much an automatic denial. Number 2, company logos on every slide. Organization logos should not be on pages with educational content. If you do have copyright concerns about your education, that doesn't mean you need to have a logo on every slide. You can just have a copyright sentence at the bottom of the page, and that should suffice for any copyright concerns. Logos and contact information are permitted on contact and intro pages, but we just need to make sure that it's not on any pages that contain educational content. Third, education requested for non-educational programming. As I mentioned before, credit hours are awarded for educational content only. So no happy hours, no dinners, no welcome remarks. It has to be for educational content only. Fourth, continuing education requested is less than an hour. We mentioned this, I think, previously, but programs must be at least 1 hour of instruction for us to award continuing education. Programs offering less than 1 hour of instruction will not be approved. And if you include Q&A, then it must take place after the full hour of instruction. And then lastly, tracking attendance not confirmed. Course providers must submit a roster at least 45 days after each administration. So if a course provider is not going to be tracking attendance, then we won't be able to approve the program. If you do have an ongoing or on-demand course, you'll want to submit a roster at least every 45 days or essentially as often as you can. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to this page where we do a bit of a mock case study. So I'm going to go ahead and show you kind of an overview of what an approved course looks like versus what a denied program would look like. So on the left side, you see the program for fair housing complaints and pitfalls. The speaker, John Doe Esquire, has 5 years of experience as a community association lawyer. The content reviews common mistakes and complaints that a community association managers face. The program is an hour in length, so this should definitely be or could definitely be approved. Now on the right-hand side, you'll see learning about landscaping tools. The speaker has 2 years of experience in interior design, which is not associated with the content at all, so they are not qualified. And you'll see that the content is about reviewing company landscaping options and pricing for property managers. So first, the content is promotional in nature, and it includes mention of property manager rather than community association manager. So both of these are big red flags for us. And then lastly, you see that the program is only 30 minutes in length. So this is not long enough to be approved. So this would again be another reason to deny this course. So this is kind of a mock overview of what the difference between an approved and an unapproved course might look like. All right, now let's go ahead and talk about what happens after you administered an approved course. Once you have administered an approved course, you'll want to ensure that all CMCA attendees are provided with a certificate of attendance. And then you'll need to send the roster of attendees as an Excel file to info@camicb.org no later than 45 days after the course date. You will also need to keep a record of all your previous rosters from the past 3 years. You'll also note that we do have templates for both the certificate and the roster available for your convenience on our website. And then CAI, here are some CAI chapter resources. As you saw on the first slide when navigating to the continuing education website, we have a page specifically for CAI chapter resources. And this is where you can find a sample certificate of attendance, a sample attendance roster, as well as some frequently asked questions. And if you need a copy of that certificate attendance or attendance roster template, feel free to reach out to us at info@camicb.org. And then I also wanted to take a quick moment to mention why we require chapters and continuing education providers to provide those certificates of completion. So managers will need a certificate of completion for each course they attend, which they will compile for their personal record. And this is required as part of the auditing policy. So if a manager is selected for an audit, we will request they present their certificate of attendance for their submitted completed coursework, which we then check against all of the submitted rosters that we receive from chapters. And please note that you should not hand out blank certificates to attendees. I also wanted to remind everyone that obtaining and retaining records is often misunderstood by managers, so please remind your chapter members that they need to keep record of their continuing education credits for their CMCA records. And then finally, follow us for more. We have Facebook and LinkedIn. We also have our CMCA Corner blog with lots of posts about community association management and really good industry-related information. And then we also have our Smart Brief newsletter. And be sure to follow us on our social media. And of course, feel free to repost any content you find interesting to your own CAI chapter website or social media. And if you ever need content or if you're ever looking for any sort of promotional materials, Feel free to reach out to us at any time at info@camicb.org.